Okay, so let's talk, excuse me, let's talk a little bit about the 5-paragraph essay. So we wrote 2 of these last semester, and everybody got a pretty good handle on them, but I just want to make sure that we go back over, revisit the 5-paragraph essay, and then we'll do some brainstorming on the kind of stuff that you could put into your Young Goodman Brown essay. So remember that, well, first of all, I gave you guys a couple of different options on how to do your pre-write. You can stick with this format if you would like. That's what we've been using, maybe what you're used to. I came up with another one that I think we use when we're doing our brainstorming. It gives you a little bit more space to write and kind of a little bit of explanation for what you need. So either way, it doesn't matter to me. I encourage you to make sure that you're doing some pre-writing, just to make sure that you are, that you fully develop your ideas and that you're sticking with them throughout the paper. So remember, on your introduction, there are several ways that you can go about it. You can tell a story, you can give facts, you could take the opposite view of what the author is saying. You could ask questions, but you need to make sure that you do that well. So I kind of discourage people from doing that, just because it's not the easiest way to start an essay. So then the last sentence of your first paragraph is your thesis. You need to give your first reason, which is your first archetype your first category of archetypes that you're going to explore. Give your second reason, which would be the second category of archetypes that you're going to explore, and your third reason, which is your third category of archetypes that you're going to explore. So then our 3 body paragraphs are all 8 sentences apiece. Remember, 7 sentences, not 9 sentences, 8 sentences apiece, because each sentence has a very specific purpose. So our first sentence is the topic sentence for the first reason, and that lays out the purpose of the entire paragraph. Then you'll have your next sentence as a subtopic, and then 2 example sentences follow that, and the example sentences need to follow back to the subtopic. So if you're saying that the black cloud represents evil, you need to say why it represents evil and how it ties back, okay? Then your second and third body paragraphs follow the same pattern. Your conclusion, remember, it starts out with your thesis, and then you use the next few sentences to draw the reader back to the introduction. The introduction and the conclusion, they're not a set number of sentences. I mean, if you have fewer than about 4 sentences, obviously too short. A lot of you could use some work on your introductions. One of the things, and I'm sure I told you guys this, but it bears repeating. Sometimes it's hard to write the introduction for your paper before you've written your paper. It's hard to introduce something that you haven't written yet. So do yourself a favor and write your thesis, write your paper, and then do your introduction and your conclusion. That way you know what you're introducing. Writing an introduction without having your paper written is kind of difficult. So again, you can use this, if you would like. Kind of up to you how you want to do that. So let's take a look at this paper. I have given you an example paper, and I have uploaded it on the portal as a PDF. I'm giving you this example paper to help you kind of see what a Young Goodman Brown paper looks like completed. If this paper is reproduced in any way, then you'll get a 0 on your assignment, and there will be no more examples given to anyone at any point for the rest of the semester. So if you're having problems with your paper, please remember to email me, okay? You can always ask for help, and always come to the work night on the 15th when your deadline to email me your papers is the 19th, I believe, when I get there. Yes, the 19th. You can certainly email me even partially completed papers, and I'll be happy to look at those. Just make sure that you're doing your own work, okay? So, this paper, up here at the top, it has the student's last name and page number. Double click here at the top, and it needs to pull up header. Go to page number. Top of page, plain number over here. You click on it, and then you type in your last name and hit a space. So down here, first name, last name, my name, the name of the class. Remember, you're now in English 1302. And the due date. Okay, so the title of your paper, please do not write an analysis of Young Goodman Brown. I know what you're turning in. I'm not going to take off if you do that, but I feel like we're at a point where we can start being a little bit more creative with our titles. So come up with something that summarizes your paper, okay? So here's the student's introduction. The Puritan way of life was not much of a choice for many people of the 17th century. Nathaniel Hawthorne began to question his Christian surroundings, and his realization about his obligatory lifestyle and upbringing are displayed in this piece, Young Goodman Brown. A central theme throughout this piece is the loss of innocence, because the young man's purity is destroyed after he discovers the hidden faults of many elders, mentors, and superior figures. A few of the most compelling archetypes used in Young Goodman Brown that enhance the theme of lost innocence are colors, religious references, and nature. Okay, so let's talk about this paragraph. First of all, she mentioned the name of the author, she mentioned the name of the short story, and she also mentioned the theme. Now, she said that the theme was loss of innocence. I've also seen people use the theme that all people are inherently evil. It kind of depends on what you feel the piece is most about. Either one of those is fine, and if you can prove another theme, that's fine as well. Now, as you're reading through this piece, is it perfect? No, but it's a really great example because, as you can see, we've still got some be verbs in here. So it's not perfection, but it is close. It's a good paper. It's a good solid paper. Notice in her paper that Young Goodman Brown is in quotation marks. That's because it's a short story. In MLA style, short stories are always in quotation marks. The names of novels are in italics, as well as the names of movies and the like. So, but for this one, we're putting quotation marks around Young Goodman Brown. Okay, so that is our introductory paragraph. Like I said, not perfect. It's a good solid paragraph though. So let's take a look at the next paragraph. So this is our first body paragraph. Hawthorne's use of significant colors represents the purity and innocence that challenge the dark and wicked mood. So that's our topic sentence. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. If you got a highlighter or you can underline, you can go ahead and do that. But so here's our topic sentence. I'm going to go ahead and do our thesis too. Okay, so our first subtopic is the pink ribbons, is pink, okay? So the pink ribbons that belong to Faith are the first hint of tainted innocence in connection to his wife and his Christian beliefs. At the beginning of the story, when the couple is saying their goodbyes, Faith is wearing pink ribbons in her hair. This is before the young man's journey into the forest, so the use of pink represents his own wholesome innocence and Christianity prior to his sinful discoveries. So do you see how the example is at the beginning of the sentence and tying it back to the subtopic is at the end of the sentence? So there's our first example right there. The pink ribbons reappear after the evil ceremony in the forest when the sky is cleared of the dark clouds. The ribbon stands for the corruption of the young man's purity as he exclaims that there is no good on earth. There's another example. And see, this really could use some page numbers. Okay, so now the next subtopic is color blue. The color blue represents hope and truth during the ominous ritual that takes place in the forest. Goodman Brown notices a blue arch when he begins to doubt his Christian values. He also sees that the blue sky was still visible among the dark masses of clouds. The blue sky gives the young man hope and reassurance after doubting whether there was a heaven above him. The colors pink and blue are used to amplify the young man's virtue and impurity before, during, and after the evil ritual. So in these examples, so we already have our embedded quotes right here, doubting whether there was really a heaven above him. So you need to make sure that you have at least one embedded quote in your paper. The purpose of that is to kind of start getting us moving toward writing these research papers where you will have to have a lot more than one. But right now we're just going to go with one. Okay, so our second body paragraph. Hawthorne uses religious connotations that oppose the malicious plot of the journey. The religious word choice and terms give off the undertones of a church service, which is the exact opposite of the events taking place in the forest, but it's fitting because of the young man's Christian values. So there's our first subtopic. First example, the word communion is used when the devil is talking to his children. The act communion is associated with a church service by accepting the body and blood of Christ. Therefore, it is unfitting that the devil use this term. There's our first example of connotation, right? Second example, another term that provides a religious association is the distant church bell that's heard in the forest. It's paradoxical that the sound of a church bell was heard along with other evil noises, such as the creaking of trees, the howling of wild beasts, and the yell of Indians. Religious figures were also present at the ritual, and their attendance astonishes Goodman Brown. Goody Cloyce was the young man's Sunday school teacher, and he is led to believe that this holy woman is a witch and close friend of the devil by her cackling and acceptance of the devil's staff. See, now there is a requirement to have one embedded quote. This student used more than one, so every time she's used it, she's used the citation. So the next example, Goodman Brown also witnesses his minister and Deacon Gookin in the forest where no church had ever gathered or solitary Christian prayed. The young man is in awe that the two men he had looked up to were passing through, and they had exclaimed that they'd rather miss an ordination dinner than tonight's meeting. The word choice and religious figures that appear in the story magnify the contradictions of Christianity and deviltry. So there's our second body paragraph right there. Final body paragraph. Nature is another strong archetype that is vital in Hawthorne's story. The forest represents a dark place in Goodman Brown's subconscious. Oh, shoot, sorry. He's not expected to encounter anybody he knows while traveling through the evil-spirited area. At first, he believes that there may be a devilish Indian behind every tree. But as his journey continues, he finds that some of the most well-known Christian people he knows are also traveling in the forest. The forest also depicts that the young man is figuratively and literally leaving civilization to take a dreary road darkened by the gloomiest trees. The pine trees of the forest represent a sense of everlasting impressions of the devil on Goodman Brown's small community. The pitch pine knot that was kindled by the devil's own hearth used to set any village on fire. This symbol depicts the eternal presence of evil in the Puritan lifestyle and the Christians' hatred toward the Indians. The four blazing pines that stood like candles at the rock and altar represent immortality of the devil at the pulpit. The nature archetypes in the story were more than just setting. They represent a dark place, isolated from civilization, and the eternity of the devil in the Christian lifestyle. Okay, so that's our last body paragraph. Here is our conclusion. Hawthorne's choice of color, religious connotations, and nature archetypes support the theme of lost innocence. After Goodman Brown's purity is ruined, he feels betrayed, and he's skeptical of the Christian people that surround him. Through the main character's experience, Nathaniel Hawthorne successfully betrays his criticism of Puritan customs in his piece, Young Goodman Brown. So going back over this, you guys know your 5-paragraph essay format, but the things that I would definitely point out is make sure that you're tying it back. Like in this sentence, she says what the example is of pink and then ties it back. This is before the young man's journey into the forest, so the use of pink represents his own wholesome innocence and Christianity prior to his sinful discoveries, okay? Remember that you don't have to retell the entire story. I know the story of Young Goodman Brown. I know it well. And so make sure that you are tying it back. Also make sure that you say the name of the story, the name of the author, and the theme. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do our brainstorming, but this is just a quick recap of the 5-paragraph essay format.